All right, so if you've got your Seder table set with your Seder plate and your matzahs, you're kind of ready to go. Well, you're going to start with Kadesh. Kadesh means Kiddush. Again, just open your Haggadah. Leader picks up their cup of wine or a cup of grape juice, whatever you're using. Some people use a blend. And you're going to make Kiddush. And this is the first of the 4 cups of wine that you're going to be drinking at the Seder. So there is an idea that you kind of, when we talk about drinking the 4 cups of wine, it doesn't mean taking a little sip. It means drinking a cup of wine. Now, this does not mean you need to have get out your large Magnum 18-ounce glass of wine, unless you really like your wine, but you're not going to make it to the end of the Seder that way. The minimum is usually somewhere between 3 and 4 ounces of liquid, so it's really not a lot. So don't worry. But someone who is over the age of bar bat mitzvah should be drinking at least 3 or 4 ounces of whatever it is they're using for the 4 cups. Just keep that in mind. It's not just a little sip. Also, the custom is that whenever we drink the 4 cups and when we eat our matzah, we lean to our left. We lean to our left, right? So you don't have to be leaning over like you're lying down. Just a little bit of a lean, give it a lean. And that's, of course, symbolic of the idea that in historic times, people who were royal would eat in a reclining fashion. And people have different ways of doing that. So anyway, that's number 1. You're going to make the Kiddush, and everybody who is participating in the Seder will drink their first cup of wine. And so that's Kadesh, Kadesh. Orchatz, we wash our hands. Now this is an interesting one because we're going to wash our hands without a blessing. It doesn't have to be 20 seconds with soap. That's a whole different thing. We wash our hands as if we're washing for bread, but no blessing. There's a complicated reason for that. It's because we're eating vegetables and dip. But basically, just go with it. It's just part of the Seder customs. The whole rule about Seder is that we're trying to make people ask questions. So we're going to wash our hands, come back and do our karpas. Now, karpas, of course, is a vegetable dipped in salt water. A very small piece of vegetable. You're not going to take a big piece. Not going to get involved in complicated blessing issues. But whatever your karpas is, as I mentioned in the previous video, there's different customs what to use for karpas. I've heard of celery, potato, parsley. The general rule is a vegetable as long as it's not a vegetable that qualifies as maror, because that'll get you confused. Go with it. Have some salt water available that you prepared, and everyone dips. The leader said the ha'adama blessing, which is probably right there in your Haggadah. Boom, done. Everyone eats. That's karpas. Yachatz is breaking of the middle matzah. So now you got your 3 matzahs in front of you. You pick up that matzah. You break the middle matzah, right? You break the middle matzah. You can be as ceremonial about it as you want. Have fun with it. And of course, once you're done, you're going to take the larger part and you're going to put it away for afikomen. There are many different customs about what to do now. In some families, the dad is going to hide this and the kids are going to find it. In some families, the kids are going to steal that part of the afikomen and hide it from the dad sometime during the Seder. There's no right or wrong way. Do whatever is fun. This is all to keep the kids engaged and interested. And if there's no one to steal the afikomen, do whatever you find interesting. But anyway, you're going to put that away for later to participate in the afikomen section of the Seder. Now you're up to Magid. Now Magid means telling the story. And this is probably the longest part of your Haggadah and maybe the part that the leaders are scared of. But there's not a lot to be scared of. Technically speaking, the point of this section is to assist you in telling the story. So read the Haggadah as fast or as slow as you like. If there's a part that you don't have a lot to say about, just read it and move on. Just try to focus on what you're trying to do here, which is that you as the leader are trying to make this an interesting and engaging experience about the story of Pesach, which ironically is not really in the Haggadah, right? You don't have the part about Moses. In fact, Moses is not mentioned in the whole section. You're telling the story of the Seder and Exodus and Moses is not there? Yeah, because it's your job to tell the story. So if you don't know the story, you probably do. The basics of the story and just tell the story. And this text is here to sort of be a jumping off point to help you tell the story. There are diversions and things that seem off topic, but just go with it. If you can find a way to weave it into the story, great. If not, move to the next page. Again, it's at your leisure. You're the leader. Make it interesting. Make it engaging. Throw candies around the table to the kids if they have a good question. Dance around. Do headstands. It's your show. Do it how you like. The only rule is that your job is to get the people there talking about the story of the Exodus. That's it. Just tell the story of the Exodus. Do it the way it works for you guys. So don't be scared. There's no rule that this has to go on for 4 hours. Some people like it that way, so they do that, right? Anyway, that's the Magid. Don't let it scare you. All right. Now comes Rachza. Rachza is where we're washing our hands in preparation for eating the matzah. This time you're going to wash your hands like you usually do for eating bread, right? And you're going to wash your hands and make a motzi. And now before you hand out, I think I missed something. At the end of Magid, if I recall correctly, you're going to be drinking your second cup of wine. There's a blessing, and everyone gets their second cup of wine and drinks their cup of wine, leaning to the left as well. Okay, now you washed your hands after that, and you are going to eat matzah. Now, the rule is that when we talk about eating and drinking at the Seder, generally we're talking about a certain volume, a certain amount. We call it a kazayas, which means an olive size. How big is an olive? You've seen olives, right? Well, the problem is that olives are three-dimensional and matzah is two-dimensional, at least nowadays. So you need a volume of a three-dimensional olive, which on average you're talking somewhere between a quarter to a half of a matzah. Now don't let that scare you. That's the amount of matzah you eat absent-mindedly during a meal. But you're going to make the motzi. The leader is going to pick up all three matzahs and say the first blessing. Put down the bottom matzah and say the second blessing. This is all in your Haggadah. You don't need to memorize this. And then start handing out matzah. Now, if you have a lot of folks at the Seder, you can hand out pieces of matzah in advance so that people have matzah to munch once you're done with the blessing. The matzah is eaten leaning over again, right? And just make sure you've eaten the right amount, which is, like I said, preferably half a matzah. But if you can't, then a quarter matzah, somewhere between a quarter and a half. So that's motzi matzah. Maror, now it's time to eat the maror. Again, you need to eat a certain volume of maror. Again, a kazayas. And if you've got romaine or endive, you're looking at about the amount that's about the size of your Haggadah, right? Like that. So lay it out over the Haggadah. It's two-dimensional, your maror, your leaf maror. If you're eating the horseradish shreds, I guess make a lumpy tablespoonful. I don't want to do that. But anyway, and of course, as we know, there's a blessing that you say, and you dip it in the charoses. Now, many people don't realize that for this portion where you're doing the mitzvah of eating maror, you don't leave a lot of charoses on there. I mean, obviously, it's not very bitter if you've got, half a cup of charoses sitting on a leaf of romaine. It doesn't taste very bitter at all. So for this particular ritual, you want to sort of just get a light dip, just a little bit of charoses on there, and that's about it. If you really like the flavor during the meal, it's great to dip and have a nice big old chunk of charoses on there. And then you all eat the maror, but you don't lean. Maror is not something celebrating freedom, so we just say the blessing and we eat the maror, all right? Then the last part before the meal is called korech. Korech means sandwich time. Because the original ritual was done with the matzah and the maror and your Passover lamb all wrapped into one. In fact, if you think about it, the original version of this was a roasted lamb roasted on a spit, wrapped in a soft matzah with maror. Basically, we call that a shawarma. But nowadays, it doesn't look like a shawarma. So what we do is called korech. We take, again, the same amount of matzah, about a quarter to a half, and the same amount of maror that we were using before, same amount, dipped in the charoses, again, not too much charoses, and hand it out to everyone. And everyone takes that, makes a sandwich out of it, leans to the left, even though there's maror in there, but you got the matzah, and you're going to eat the whole thing, right? There's a little verse you say before you say that, Zecher lemikdash kehillel. Why we're doing this? We're doing it to commemorate the way it was done in the temple. After that, it's mealtime. Enjoy. I hope you have a meal. There's no rules. Just eat what you like. Some people have a custom to eat an egg. There's a custom to eat an egg the night of the Seder. And some people will take that and they'll dip it in salt water. This is not obligated. You don't like eggs? Don't eat them. You don't like eggs dipped in salt water? Don't eat one. Whatever you like. Some people do it. Some people don't. If it's your custom, then you should do it. And then you have your meal. Now, keep in mind, have your meal, but don't get too stuffed, because at the end of the meal comes dessert. And you know what's for dessert? That's right, it's not borscht. It's not jellied fruit slices. What's for dessert is afikomen, more matzah, right? So after motzi matzah, maror, korech, shulchan arech, tzafun. Tzafun means afikomen time. Again, you're going to have to eat the same volume you ate before, between a quarter and a half, whatever you're able to. I mean, you're probably kind of full at this point, which is the right way to eat afikomen, but leave a little room, all right? Just to let you know, if the kids are driving a hard bargain and they've hid the afikomen and you can't find it, and they want an entire package, a 36-roll package of toilet paper, they're pushing a hard bargain, you can say, like my dad used to say, you know, we don't actually have to use that matzah for afikomen that I put away. It's symbolic. It's nice to use it, but we don't actually have to. So just a little tip for you guys who are making your afikomen. So now, after that, afikomen, tzafun, and then barech. Barech means time to do the birkat hamazon, the blessing after the meal. So this is going to be your third cup of wine. So prep your cup of wine. It's very easy. You do the birkat hamazon. It's in there in the Haggadah. And then barech halel. Hallel, there's a little more prayers, singing prayers to the Lord, at which you'll have, at the end of that, the fourth cup of wine. And the last final step is nirtza. Nirtza is songs, you know, Chad Gadya and all sorts of stuff. Again, this is kind of your call. Have fun with it. Sing songs, stay up as late as you want, go to sleep, whatever you want. Those are the basics. I just want to emphasize that if you have any questions or any complications or details that you need, feel free to be in touch with me. I will help you as best I can. I ain't going anywhere. Right in the middle of this video, a cop just was slowing down, looking at me like, what are you doing out of your house? Oh, I'm at my front step, so he didn't really bug me. But I'm not going anywhere. We're all not going anywhere. I'm available by phone, by text. I'm available. So if you have any questions about setting up the Seder and any of these details, I'd be glad to help you. Have a great Pesach.